Who commented on the last video about the count of the parasite? Please mention it in the comments. I have one more question for you. As we have more than 132 living thing video, can we call it a series? Add your thoughts in the comments. Before starting a video, I am pleading for the subscription. I desperately need it. Head lice. Pediculosis, commonly called head lice, is an infestation that spreads most often when people come in contact with an affected person's hair. Spread via clothing or hairbrushes is uncommon. The culprit is Pediculus humanus capitis, a parasitic insect, which pets like dogs and cats can't transmit. Symptoms include tickling and itching on your scalp, and if you scratch a lot, you can develop sores. Once you're alerted that you have head lice, your doctor can probably see them with a magnifying glass. There are prescription and over-the-counter medications to kill the insects. Hookworm. Hookworm is pretty common around the globe, but it's no longer as widespread in the US. The most common types of hookworm are Ancylostoma duodenale and Nicator americanus. Hookworm eggs pass through human feces. If a person goes to the bathroom outdoors, the eggs can get into the soil, and the larva can get into broken skin if you come in contact with the soil. In fact, it most commonly infects people when they walk on contaminated soil, and poor hygiene plays a factor in transmission. Some people have gastrointestinal symptoms, but many have none. You can develop anemia due to blood loss, so getting diagnosed is key. Doctors collect a stool sample to confirm if you have hookworm. Medication is available to treat the parasitic worms. Intestinal roundworms. Roundworms are a leading cause of parasitic diseases across the world. Although the infections are not common in the US, one type of roundworm is Ascaris lumbricoides, which is often called just Ascaris and causes an infection called ascariasis. The worm's eggs pass through feces. If someone goes to the bathroom outdoors and another person's broken skin comes into contact with the contaminated dirt, or they eat contaminated produce, it can spread to others. There often are not any symptoms, though they can include upset stomach or pain. Severe infections can lead to intestinal blockages or, in children, slow a kid's growth due to malnutrition. Physicians diagnose it by examining a stool sample. Medication is available to treat it. Malaria. Also called Plasmodium infection, malaria is a disease that's caused by a parasite. Anopheles mosquitoes spread malaria from one person to another, as a mosquito can pick up the parasite if they bite a person infected with it. Symptoms of malaria include flu-like symptoms, such as fever and chills. If it's not treated, the disease can cause complications. In 2022, 249 million people across the world had malaria. Some cases are diagnosed in the US each year, but typically occur in people who have recently traveled to places where the disease regularly spreads. Scabies. A mite known as Sarcoptes scabiei causes scabies. The condition occurs when the mite digs itself into the skin. That's where it lives and lays eggs. A pimple-like rash and itching are the main symptoms of the infestation, which is spread by close contact with a person who has scabies. The rash may be limited to areas like the wrist, armpit, finger webbing, genitals, waist or buttocks. You'll find scabies throughout the world, especially in crowded living spaces, such as nursing homes and prisons. The mites can live for 1 to 2 months in people's skin, which makes them hard to get rid of. Scabies can typically be diagnosed visually, and luckily, medicines called scabicides can eliminate the parasite. Whipworm. This parasitic worm causes trichuriasis, a disease that's pretty common throughout the world, especially in warm climates with inadequate sanitation. Its eggs pass through the feces of an infected person, and it spreads to others who come into contact with contaminated soil, either by walking on it or by eating produce with the parasite on it. Some people have no symptoms. Severe symptoms include painful bowel movements and rectal prolapse. A doctor can diagnose it by examining a stool sample. Medications can treat the condition. Clonorchis. People who eat raw or undercooked fish in areas where this parasite is found, namely in Asia, can get infected with the Clonorchis parasite. The organism is known as a liver fluke parasite because it infects the liver, as well as the gallbladder and bile ducts. Freshwater snails eat Clonorchis eggs and release larvae that then enter freshwater fish. Most people with the parasite don't have symptoms, but when they do emerge, they can include indigestion, stomach pain, diarrhea and constipation. The infection can last for 25 to 30 years, which is how long the parasites can live in the body. Your doctor will check your stool to see if eggs are in there. The good news is there's medication that can treat it. Pinworm. Enterobius vermicularis is a roundworm that causes what's known as pinworm infection, which is also called enterobiasis or oxyuriasis. The infection can affect anyone, but it's most common in children and those who live in close quarters. It's spread when pinworm eggs are transmitted when contaminated feces comes in contact with someone's mouth, such as via contaminated bedding, food or clothing. Sometimes the worm's eggs can spread from underneath fingernails into the mouth, if their hands come in contact with feces. Symptoms include itching around the anus. To diagnose the infection, doctors look for worms near the anus or stick tape around the anus to see if worms are there. Over-the-counter medications can treat the infection. Keratitis. This parasitic infection is caused by the single-celled organism Acanthamoeba, a type of amoeba. It's found globally in water and soil, and it can cause infections of the eyes, skin and central nervous system, which includes the brain and spinal cord. It can enter the body through wounds or through the nostrils, and infections have also been tied to swimming with contact lenses. Blurred vision, sensitivity to light, eye pain and tearing are all symptoms of the eye infection. Specifically, eye scraping, brain scans, biopsies or spinal taps can be used to diagnose the illness. Eye infections can be tough to treat. Skin infections can be treated when they haven't spread to the central nervous system, but if the parasite gets into your brain, it can be fatal. Toxicariasis. This roundworm infection is caused by the larva from two species of Toxicura roundworms, called Toxicura canis, which people get from dogs, and Toxicura cati, which is from cats. It can't spread between people. Experts think a lot of humans have been exposed to the parasite because about 5% of American adults carry antibodies to it. Pets that have the parasite shed it in their feces, which can be passed to people if they don't adequately wash their hands or if they eat food contaminated with traces of dirt that contains the eggs. In rare cases, it can be passed from eating undercooked meat that contains that larva. It can affect the eye and other organs of the body, such as the liver and lungs. However, some people with the parasite have no symptoms at all. Medications can treat the systemic infection, if it occurs, while the type that affects the eyes is harder to treat. Schistosomiasis. Also known as bilharzia, schistosomiasis is a disease caused by parasitic worms including Schistosoma hematobium, S. japonicum and S. mansoni. People from across the globe can be affected, though the worms haven't been found in the U.S. The parasitic worms live in some types of freshwater snails. Cercariae, the larval form of the parasite, is the most infectious form and it can get from the snail into the water. People can then get schistosomiasis if they are exposed to contaminated water. A few days after exposure, you may have itching or rash that can lead to chills, fever, cough or muscle aches within a month or two. Urine or stool samples, or a blood test, can help you get an accurate diagnosis. Medications are available to treat the parasitic infection. Cyclosporiasis. Cyclosporiasis is an illness that affects the intestines, and it's caused by the parasite Cyclospora catanensis. People can get the parasite if they eat contaminated food or drink contaminated water. It's often in tropical and subtropical areas of the world. Outbreaks from food in the U.S. have been tied to imported produce. Symptoms can include loss of appetite, watery diarrhea, weight loss, stomach cramps or pain, bloating, gas, fatigue, nausea and explosive bowel movements. A stool sample is needed for diagnosis. Antibiotics can treat the infection, even though the disease isn't caused by bacteria. I hope you liked this video and already press the subscribe button and comment the parasite count in this video. Thanks for watching.